Kodiak was not just any dog. He was a gentle giant who had come to the shelter with a sparkle in his bright eyes and a calm demeanor. When he first arrived, the staff quickly noticed his friendly nature and how well he interacted with children and families. He was the kind of dog who wagged his tail the moment someone approached him, eager for affection and companionship. The shelter workers often remarked on how he seemed to have an innate ability to sense when someone needed a little extra love. His initial assessment painted a hopeful picture. Surveying his behavior during playtime, the evaluators noted how he played gently with toys, shared space comfortably with other dogs, and always returned to their side when called. They were confident that Kodiak would find a loving home quickly, where he would thrive and be cherished. Little did they know how much life would change for him over the months that followed. However, as time passed in the shelter, something shifted within Kodiak. It was as if a dark cloud had settled over his once bright spirit. The change was gradual but noticeable. Each day, more and more people came to meet him, but he began to show signs of uncertainty. His once inviting body language transformed into a tense stance, and the tail that used to wag so eagerly now hung low. The volunteers who had adored him found it increasingly difficult to connect with him. He stopped seeking their attention and would withdraw into his kennel, watching them from the shadows with wary eyes. After being adopted twice and returned, each time with vague explanations about biting or unexpected behavior, it became painfully clear that something was amiss. The shelter director felt a heavy weight on her shoulders. Every return felt like a personal failure. She watched Kodiak from afar, saddened by how he had become more of a shadow than a vibrant member of their shelter family. Then there were the red card days. These were days reserved for dogs who posed behavioral challenges or had developed issues with anxiety or aggression during their stay at the shelter. 94 days behind that red card door took its toll on Kodiak. No longer did his cheerful spirit shine. Instead, he sat quietly alone, watching the world go by without engaging. The laughter of children playing outside barely reached him now. It broke the hearts of those who cared for him to see such a beautiful soul retreat into silence. Finally, hope arrived in the form of Claire, a dedicated dog trainer who devoted her weekends to volunteering at the shelter. Claire had seen many dogs come and go and understood that sometimes all they needed was time and gentle presence to heal. She had heard about Kodiak's situation and felt an overwhelming urge to help him. With her warm smile and calm approach, she asked if she could take him home for 2 whole days. The director nodded, feeling that Kodiak deserved this chance even if it was just for a short while. As Claire planned her weekend with Kodiak, she resolved not to use any formal training methods or imposed routines. Instead, she envisioned 2 days of simply coexisting peacefully in each other's space. Upon bringing Kodiak home, Claire settled down on the floor beside him instead of demanding attention or obedience. She introduced him to her cozy living room filled with toys, yet made sure not to overwhelm him with choices or expectations. She offered soft treats but then waited patiently as he decided whether or not to partake. At first, Kodiak remained guarded. He would passively accept treats but rarely looked up into Claire's eyes or approached her space willingly. However, Claire didn't mind. Her mission was merely to be present with him without any agenda. So she sat there on that floor, just existing alongside this troubled pup, and letting him dictate the pace of their interactions. As hours passed slowly into evening, Claire read aloud from her book while Kodiak lay nearby, observing her with cautious interest. His big brown eyes followed her movements, showing hints of curiosity beneath the insecurity that had built up during his time in the shelter system. By Sunday night, something extraordinary happened. While Claire sat reading quietly next to him on the living room floor, Kodiak gradually moved closer until he nestled beside her. After soothing whispers and gentle pats through the late evening hours, he rested his head against Claire's foot, a gesture brimming with trust that was previously foreign to him. Claire's heart swelled with joy at this breakthrough moment. It felt like she was witnessing a miracle. This simple connection spoke volumes about how Kodiak's heart had begun to open once again after enduring so much pain. As they settled into this newfound comfort together, Claire realized that maybe this special bond could lead them both toward healing, the beginning of a brighter journey. When dawn broke on Monday morning, Claire picked up her phone with anticipation coursing through her veins. The thought crossed her mind numerous times. What would happen if Kodiak could finally find solace in a forever home? She hesitated only for a moment before dialing the shelter's number. This time, she had made up her mind. She wouldn't be bringing him back. In those 2 transformative days together, they both discovered what it meant to heal through connection. Something far beyond anything words could explain about assurances or formal evaluations in a shelter setting. After everything Kodiak had been through, he deserved to find peace at last, and it seemed that Claire was the one who could give it to him. Kodiak's journey through the shelter system was filled with both hope and heartache. When he first arrived, everyone thought he would quickly find a loving home. His calm demeanor and friendly nature made him a favorite among staff and volunteers. However, as the months stretched on, reality began to paint a different picture. After his first adoption, Kodiak seemed excited to start his new life. The family who took him home praised his gentle spirit and how well he adapted to their routine. But after just a few weeks, they returned him to the shelter. The explanation was vague, something about unexpected behavior during family gatherings. Kodiak had shown signs of anxiety when visitors came, but no one could pinpoint why he acted out. It was confusing for both the family and the shelter staff. The second adoption came soon after. This time, a couple believed they could provide the stable environment Kodiak needed. They were drawn to his loving presence and thought they could help him overcome any fears he might have. For a short period, it seemed like a match made in heaven. But again, the joy was not long-lived. They returned him after just 2 weeks, citing that he had snapped at a friend during a barbecue. The couple was understandably shaken, but once again, no clear reason emerged as to why Kodiak had reacted that way. Each return left the shelter staff feeling more helpless. As Kodiak continued to cycle through homes and back to the shelter, he started to change. The bright-eyed dog who once greeted visitors with tail wags now became more withdrawn. The enthusiastic barks turned into low whimpers, and his once engaging eyes lost their sparkle. Instead of running toward people, he would retreat to the safety of his kennel, watching from a distance with a hesitant gaze. After 2 failed adoptions, Kodiak was placed behind a red car door, a designation given to dogs that posed behavioral challenges or showed signs of aggression. This area of the shelter was meant for dogs who needed extra care and monitoring, and it served as a protective barrier for both them and potential adopters. For Kodiak, this became a place of isolation, where he spent 94 days in solitude, cut off from the normal hustle and bustle of shelter life. During those long days behind the red car door, Kodiak's spirit dulled further. Volunteers who had once adored him found it heartbreaking to see such a transformation. When they attempted to engage with him, he often shied away or simply ignored their attempts for attention. A few brave souls tried to coax him out of his shell with treats and gentle words, but he barely responded. It was as if he had given up on trusting anyone again. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months, which only added to the sorrow felt by the shelter staff. They couldn't understand what had happened to this once vibrant dog who had shown such promise. Each return from adoption was like a dagger to their hearts. They felt they were failing him repeatedly. The director watched Kodiak from afar, her heart heavy with concern and frustration. She wondered if there was anything more they could do to help him. The shelter environment is filled with love and hope, yet it can also be overwhelming for dogs like Kodiak who struggle with past traumas or fears. With each passing day behind that red car door, the laughter of children outside faded into the background noise of his existence. He became more of a shadow than a dog full of life, a heartbreaking sight for those who cared for him. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, Claire entered the scene. She had spent countless weekends at the shelter and knew that some dogs needed more than just formal training. They needed time and compassion to heal. Hearing about Kodiak's struggles tugged at her heartstrings, and she knew she had to make an effort to connect with him. Claire's approach was entirely different from what other trainers might employ. She intended to simply be present with Kodiak without any pressure or expectations. She believed that by spending time with him in a relaxed setting, he might begin to open up again. Her soft-spoken nature and patient demeanor were exactly what Kodiak needed. When she asked if she could take him home for 2 days, the director felt both relief and hope. It was an opportunity for Kodiak to experience life outside of the confines of the shelter, an opportunity that might just change everything for him. As Claire arrived at her home with Kodiak by her side, she made sure to create an atmosphere filled with peace and comfort. She sat on the floor beside him instead of pulling him into her space or demanding engagement from him right away. For Claire, it was all about letting Kodiak set the pace for their relationship. During these 2 days together, Claire's relentless patience began to chip away at the walls surrounding Kodiak's heart. While it took time for him to feel safe enough to approach her willingly, each small step forward was a victory worth celebrating. As they settled into this new routine of simply being together without any pressure, something beautiful began to unfold between them. A connection grounded in trust that had been missing from Kodiak's life for so long. This period marked an essential turning point in Kodiak's journey through the shelter system, a chance for renewal that would ultimately redefine his future as Claire steadfastly committed herself to helping him heal from his past experiences one gentle moment at a time. As Kodiak spent his days behind the red car door, the effects of isolation began to take a heavy toll on his spirit. Initially, he had been a bright and cheerful dog, eager to greet each new visitor and join in the excitement of shelter life. But after being separated from the energy and love of the volunteers for those long 94 days, he became a shadow of his former self. The red card area was designed to protect dogs who posed behavioral challenges, but for Kodiak, it felt more like a prison. The lack of human interaction left him feeling abandoned and neglected. Where once he would eagerly wag his tail at the sight of people approaching, he now barely lifted his head, instead choosing to curl up in a corner of his kennel. His once bright eyes dulled, reflecting the sadness that had taken root within him. Without regular contact from volunteers, Kodiak began to lose the social skills necessary for healthy interactions. He became wary and hesitant around people, an understandable reaction given the confusing experiences he had endured during his time in foster homes. This withdrawal manifested not only in his behavior but also in his mindset. The joyful barks that had once filled the shelter were replaced by whimpers and sighs as he spent hours staring blankly at the wall. For anyone who walked by his kennel, it was heartbreaking to witness. Volunteers who had previously adored him felt frustrated and helpless. They missed the enthusiastic dog who would nuzzle their hands for attention and loved playing fetch in the yard. Now, when they tried to coax him out with treats or kind words, he would often turn away or flinch at sudden movements. The joyful anticipation that had accompanied their visits was replaced with an unease that hung heavily in the air. Isolation stripped away Kodiak's confidence and left him vulnerable to anxiety. He no longer knew how to trust humans or form connections. Each passing day behind that door felt like a step further away from the loving home everyone had hoped he would find. As each week turned into another month of confinement, it became increasingly clear that this separation was doing far more harm than good. The shelter staff noticed how Kodiak's mental state deteriorated over time. Whenever he did have brief encounters with volunteers who attempted to engage him, the interactions were tinged with caution and reluctance. It was almost as if he was afraid of getting too close again, afraid of being let down once more. The bright spark of hope that accompanied his initial arrival faded into a dull glow overshadowed by uncertainty. For Kodiak, every moment in isolation felt like a message echoing through his mind. You are not enough. His self-esteem took a significant hit as he grappled with rejection. First from 2 different families who returned him without understanding his struggles, and then from a world outside his kennel that felt increasingly distant. It was as if each failed adoption added another layer of doubt onto an already fragile psyche. Interestingly enough, while Kodiak faced this internal turmoil alone behind the red card door, other dogs continued their lives within the shelter walls. They received visitors, went for walks in the yard, and enjoyed training sessions with eager volunteers. Experiences that were systematically denied to him for months on end. As laughter filled the air around him, Kodiak remained quiet and solitary, feeling forgotten amidst all this joy. The isolation could have been bearable if there had been any form of enrichment during those long days. However, not much could happen behind closed doors meant for protection rather than engagement. He lacked opportunities to socialize or engage with toys or activities that might stimulate his mind or comfort his soul. Deep down inside this gentle giant lay a need for companionship, a yearning that craved connection despite overwhelming fear. The volunteers could sense this longing. They often approached with cautious optimism but were met with backpedaling instead of progress. It wasn't until Claire entered Kodiak's life that everything began to shift. Her understanding of dog behavior stemmed from patience and compassion rather than rigid training techniques. She recognized that humans weren't just meant to be caretakers. They should also foster genuine connections built on trust. When Claire first arrived at the shelter and aimed her focus toward Kodiak's dark corner behind the red car door, something magical happened. Just her calm presence alone made an impact on him. It sparked a glimmer of hope inside him as she began taking small steps forward, gently breaking down the barriers formed by isolation. In contrast to all previous interactions he'd experienced, Claire didn't rush. She didn't demand anything from him nor push him beyond what felt comfortable for him. Instead of forcing engagement during their first meeting together outside of confinement, Claire sat quietly at eye level with Kodiak while offering treats without expectation, allowing him space and time to decide how best to interact with her. It was this patient transition back into normalcy that made all the difference for Kodiak. The crucial link between past trauma and hopeful healing lay in these simple moments where presence replaced pressure. Slowly but surely, Claire's efforts would help reintegrate Kodiak into social interactions once again, turning torment into trust step by gradual step as they began exploring life outside those heavy red doors together. Overall, Kodiak's experience behind the red car door highlighted just how deeply isolation can affect an animal's behavior and spirit. It serves as a reminder about resilience and connection, the two essential elements necessary for healing any scar left behind by neglectful circumstances. Claire was a familiar face at the shelter, known for her warm smile and gentle approach to training dogs. She had dedicated countless weekends to volunteering, always eager to lend a hand wherever it was needed. Unlike many trainers who relied on strict methods or formal commands, Claire believed in the power of connection and understanding when it came to working with animals. Her philosophy centered on patience and compassion, an approach that made a world of difference for dogs like Kodiak. When she heard about Kodiak's struggles behind the red car door, her heart went out to him immediately. Claire understood that sometimes dogs need more than just training. They needed time to rediscover their confidence and trust in humans. She had seen too many dogs suffer from anxiety and fear due to past traumas, and she knew that with the right support, they could heal and flourish once again. On that Friday afternoon, as she approached the director with her request to take Kodiak home for the weekend, there was a sense of determination in her voice. "I want to help him," she said earnestly. The director felt a mix of hope and trepidation. After all, this was a dog who had already been let down twice by adopters. Yet, she recognized Claire's unwavering dedication and decided it would be worth giving Kodiak this chance. What set Claire apart was her unconventional method of training. Instead of using treats as rewards or demanding specific behaviors from the outset, she focused on simply being present with the dog. Her approach involved sitting quietly on the floor near Kodiak's kennel rather than standing over him or trying to coax him into action. She understood that forcing interaction would only create more anxiety for him. Once they arrived at Claire's home, she created an inviting atmosphere filled with comfort and calmness. There were no flashy toys or loud noises, just soft blankets on the floor where they could share space without any expectations weighing down on them. For Claire, it was about allowing Kodiak to dictate how he wanted to interact. During those first moments in her home, Kodiak remained cautious but curious. He had spent so long feeling isolated that stepping into this new environment brought mixed emotions. Fear mingled with a flicker of hope. Claire noticed his hesitation but didn't rush him. Instead, she sat patiently, quietly observing while giving him the time he needed. Over the course of their 2 days together, Claire engaged in simple activities that encouraged Kodiak to feel safe without any pressure. She read aloud from her favorite book while sitting cross-legged on the floor nearby, allowing his natural curiosity to draw him closer when he felt comfortable enough to investigate. Occasionally, she would toss a soft toy his way but never forced him to engage or retrieve it if he wasn't interested. What began as cautious glances quickly turned into moments of tentative exploration for Kodiak. The gentle sound of Claire's voice created an inviting atmosphere where he could slowly lower his guard and feel accepted without judgment or expectation. As hours passed into evening light filtering through the windows, something beautiful unfolded between them. A blossoming bond grounded in mutual respect and understanding. Each small step forward filled Claire with joy. Whether it was a wagging tail or a sidelong glance of curiosity from Kodiak felt like monumental achievements given what he had endured in recent months. By Sunday night, after days filled with quiet companionship rather than forced interactions or commands, something shifted within Kodiak completely. He approached Claire while she sat on the floor reading again and nudged her gently with his nose before settling beside her feet for comfort. It was in this moment that both trainer and dog realized they were beginning not just a journey towards healing but also forming an unbreakable connection built upon trust. A stark contrast from what both had experienced previously during their time apart from one another's company. When dawn broke on Monday morning, there was no doubt left in Claire's mind about how significant this weekend had been. Not only for Kodiak but also for herself as someone who sought deeper connections through kindness rather than strict behavioral corrections alone. As she picked up her phone early that morning and dialed the shelter's number once more, determination coursed through her veins. This time around would be different because they had both learned how essential patience truly is when rebuilding what was lost along life's tumultuous journey together. Claire's introduction into Kodiak's life marked a pivotal moment, the beginning of recovery rooted firmly within love instead of isolation. It exemplified how genuine relationships can change everything for animals like him who have faced abandonment so cruelly before meeting someone willing enough just to exist alongside them without pressure or expectation driving their every move forward together toward brighter days ahead. Through their 2 days together filled with compassion-driven interactions devoid of rigid techniques often used elsewhere came forth renewed hope not only for Kodiak himself but also potentially others who may find themselves facing similar struggles within situations that lack understanding beyond mere observation alone. The true essence behind what makes all beings thrive lies within connection fueled by empathy above all else. Claire's unique approach to training dogs was rooted in a fundamental belief. Sometimes, the most powerful way to help an animal heal is simply through presence. Her weekend with Kodiak served as a testament to this philosophy. Rather than imposing structured training sessions filled with commands and corrections, Claire offered something far more vital. A safe space where Kodiak could choose to engage on his own terms. When they first arrived at her home, Claire made it a priority to establish an environment that felt secure and inviting. She didn't fill the room with flashy toys or loud noises. Instead, she set the tone with soft blankets sprawled across the floor and quiet music playing gently in the background. It was a deliberate choice designed to create a calming atmosphere for Kodiak, who had spent so long behind the red car door, isolated from the warmth of human interaction. Sitting on the floor at eye level with Kodiak was one of Claire's most important actions. This simple act removed any feelings of intimidation he might have experienced when faced with someone towering over him. It communicated to Kodiak that she was there as a companion, not a figure of authority demanding anything from him. By choosing this position, Claire allowed him to feel empowered in their interactions. During their time together, Claire practiced what she termed mindful presence. This involved quietly observing Kodiak and being attuned to his needs without pressuring him into any specific actions. She was patient, allowing him to explore his new surroundings at his own pace. If he chose to retreat to a corner or simply lay down and watch her from afar, that was perfectly okay. There were no expectations weighing down on him. As hours turned into days, something remarkable began to unfold between them. Whenever Kodiak hesitated or appeared anxious about approaching her, Claire remained calm and unfazed. She gently encouraged him by speaking softly, sharing stories about her life and reading passages from her favorite books aloud. The sound of her voice became a soothing balm for his frayed nerves. He slowly started inching closer, drawn in by the warmth of her tone rather than forced interaction. One evening, while Claire sat cross-legged on the floor reading a book, she noticed Kodiak's cautious glances turn into curious stares. His big brown eyes sparkled faintly as he tested the waters by edging closer toward her without fear of rejection or reprimand hanging over him like an unwanted cloud. There were moments when he would scoot closer just enough to inhale deeply as if trying to take in her scent, a sign that he was beginning to feel safe around her. It was during these quiet moments that the true power of Claire's presence shone through. As Kodiak learned that he could be near someone without feeling pressured or judged, small gestures began to surface. An inquisitive head tilt here, a gentle wag of his tail there, as if he were finally beginning to reclaim pieces of himself long lost behind those heavy doors. Claire didn't rush their progress. Instead, she embraced every small victory with joy and encouragement. The atmosphere remained dedicated solely to establishing trust rather than performing tricks or achieving goals outlined by typical training methods. This laid-back approach allowed Kodiak time for self-discovery without constraints imposed by outside expectations. Something incredibly liberating for a dog who had been returned twice due largely in part because he found it hard navigating stressors like visitors or gatherings filled with noise. When Sunday night rolled around after 2 transformative days together spent amidst countless unpressured interactions filled mostly with companionship rather than enforced duties or tasks designed strictly around his obedience levels, it seemed almost miraculous what had transpired. Kodiak found himself resting peacefully at Claire's feet while she read aloud yet again. A moment symbolizing both their newfound bond built upon understanding rather than any concrete accomplishments. Claire's method exemplified how healing can be instigated simply through being there. Existing alongside another creature without demands placed upon them can foster relationships that thrive on kindness alone. In these shared spaces free from strict guidelines emerged trust, the kind of trust essential for recovery after experiencing neglect or abandonment like Kodiak had endured throughout his extended stay within shelter confines. The power of presence proved itself invaluable throughout this journey. It stripped away years' worth of doubt, instilled through previous failed attempts at integration into other families, before coming fully alive, once more through gentle companionship instead. Not merely transforming lives but redefining them entirely along paths illuminated brightly by compassion-driven connections nourished deeply over time without pressure hanging overhead, always waiting expectantly for results sought too soon, too quickly amidst circumstances already heavily laden with uncertainty, moving forward together toward brighter tomorrows ahead, where love would ultimately conquer all doubts kept hidden from view until this moment became reality formed between 2 souls determined enough never again lose sight each other ever again. The power of presence proved itself invaluable throughout this journey. It stripped away years' worth of doubt, instilled through previous failed attempts at integration into other families, before coming fully alive, once more through gentle companionship instead. Not merely transforming lives but redefining them entirely along paths illuminated brightly by compassion-driven connections nourished deeply over time without pressure hanging overhead, always waiting expectantly for results sought too soon, too quickly amidst circumstances already heavily laden with uncertainty, moving forward together toward brighter tomorrows ahead, where love would ultimately conquer all doubts kept hidden from view until this moment became reality formed between 2 souls determined enough never again lose sight each other ever again. As the weekend progressed, the bond between Claire and Kodiak grew stronger, unfolding in subtle yet profound ways. Trust is not built overnight. It develops through moments of connection and understanding, and Claire was keenly aware of that truth. From the very first hour they spent together, she embraced the task of helping Kodiak learn to trust her again. The second day at Claire's home began with soft morning light filtering through the curtains. Claire sat cross-legged on the floor, sipping her coffee while reading aloud from a book. She wanted to create an environment where Kodiak felt welcome but not pressured to join her immediately. At first, he remained tucked in a corner, observing her with cautious curiosity. His body language told a story. Ears perked up slightly, eyes flickering between her and the cozy blankets scattered about. Gradually, Claire noticed a change in Kodiak's demeanor as she continued her gentle presence without seeking engagement from him. He took tentative steps towards her space, inching closer as his bravery began to outweigh his fear. A breakthrough moment occurred when Claire softly called his name while patting the floor beside her. The sweetness in her voice acted like a magnet, naturally drawing him nearer. With each passing hour, Kodiak's anxiety lessened ever so slightly. On one occasion, while Claire read aloud, she caught sight of him cautiously approaching with a curious tilt of his head. This small gesture marked a milestone. It showed he felt comfortable enough to explore the area around her without feeling overwhelmed or threatened. By midday, the sun bathed the room in warmth and comfort, a perfect backdrop for bonding. Claire decided it was time for some playtime to help Kodiak associate joy with his new surroundings. She gently tossed a soft toy across the floor but didn't pressure him to retrieve it. Instead, she simply smiled and encouraged him with playful remarks about how fun it would be if he decided to engage. At first, Kodiak just watched intently from his spot nearby. However, he soon mustered enough courage to inch forward and investigate the toy. That first hesitant nibble at the edge of the plush toy was monumental. His way of embracing joy again after experiencing such darkness for so long. Seeing this progress filled Claire with immense joy. She clapped softly and encouraged him with praise that spoke volumes to his heart. It wasn't just playing that sealed their growing connection. Quiet moments held equal significance too. In one particularly special instance, Kodiak settled down beside her on a blanket after sniffing around for reassurance. As he lay there soaking up warmth radiating from both sunbeams and shared companionship, it felt like magic enveloped them in that intimate space. Throughout these interactions, any sign of hesitation gradually shifted into solace for Kodiak, a stark contrast to earlier moments when he'd flinch or retreat at sudden movements or sounds coming from around him. Little by little, he learned that he could trust Claire. He saw that she wouldn't push him into anything uncomfortable or make demands upon him while they were together. Perhaps one of the most touching moments came during an afternoon lull when Claire just sat quietly watching Kodiak breathe deeply beside her. There were no words spoken, only silent comfort exchanged between two souls finding a rhythm together fueled by mutual respect and understanding developed over shared time spent bonding rather than rushing through lessons set out by previous handlers elsewhere. Many dogs recover from trauma differently, but for Kodiak, the key became knowing he belonged somewhere safe where affection won over fear, ultimately shaping everything about what love could mean despite past hardships encountered previously before arriving here under much brighter skies viewed now amidst compassion which had sprung forth where once only loneliness prevailed. By Sunday evening, as waves of dusk painted colors across walls softly illuminating both their spirits intertwined within shadows cast lightly against furniture surrounding them contrasting their silhouettes against twinkling stars appearing beyond window panes, the moment crystallized their journey. Watching as Kodiak nestled close alongside Claire once more who welcomed him lovingly without expectations pressing down upon either one anymore, their bond solidified as they drifted comfortably together into dreamland until tomorrow dawn awakened fresh hope anew not only for Kanoka alone but anyone else yearning for love found amid trusting relationships restored over time shared patiently free from artificially contrived timelines determining outcomes evaluated based solely upon actions taken. Too soon while mistaking true healing often obtained within connections fostered deeply instead. By Sunday evening as waves of dusk painted colors across walls softly illuminating both their spirits intertwined within shadows cast lightly against furniture surrounding them contrasting their silhouettes against twinkling stars appearing beyond window panes, the moment crystallized their journey. Watching as Kodiak nestled close alongside Claire once more who welcomed him lovingly without expectations pressing down upon either one anymore, their bond solidified as they drifted comfortably together into dreamland until tomorrow dawn awakened fresh hope anew not only for Kanoka alone but anyone else yearning for love found amid trusting relationships restored over time shared patiently free from artificially contrived timelines determining outcomes evaluated based solely upon actions taken. Too soon while mistaking true healing often obtained within connections fostered deeply instead. As the sun began to set on that memorable Sunday evening, the soft golden light filtered through the windows, casting a warm glow around the room where Claire and Kodiak had shared their transformative weekend. The friendly chatter of birds outside faded into a peaceful quiet, replaced by the gentle rustling of leaves in the cool breeze. It was during this tranquil moment that the true essence of their bond blossomed. Claire sat cross-legged on her cozy blanket, her favorite book resting beside her. She had been reading aloud for a while, but her voice softened as she realized it was time for a different kind of connection. Kodiak lay nearby, his big brown eyes watching her with that familiar mix of curiosity and caution. He had come so far in just 2 days, yet Claire could still sense the remnants of his past struggles lingering just beneath the surface. After spending countless hours together exploring trust and friendship, Kodiak had begun to embrace little joys, like nudging Claire's hand with his nose or inching closer to her side. It was an incredible transformation from the shy dog who had once hesitated at every unfamiliar sound. His journey towards healing was evident in every subtle movement he made, gradually shedding layers of anxiety that had enveloped him for far too long. As Claire continued to read, she felt a shift in the atmosphere. The kind where time seems to slow down, allowing for unspoken moments filled with love and comfort. She looked down to see Kodiak shifting slightly, his body relaxing as he let out a soft sigh. The weight of his past appeared to lift as he nestled closer to her. Then came the moment that would etch itself in both their hearts forever. Kodiak gently rested his head upon Claire's foot. Time seemed to pause as this simple action spoke volumes about how much he had learned to trust her over these short yet impactful days. It was as if he was saying without words, "I feel safe here with you." Claire's heart swelled with emotion as she looked down at him. She could hardly believe how far they had come together. Tears began to well in her eyes, not from sadness but from overwhelming joy. This moment symbolized everything she had hoped for when she took him home. It was evidence that love and patience could mend even the deepest wounds. With his head resting on her foot, Kodiak finally seemed to understand what it meant to be cherished without conditions or expectations. The fear that once haunted him slowly faded into nothingness, replaced by a comforting warmth that enveloped them both. In that stillness, they shared an unbreakable bond forged through compassion and genuine connection. Claire reached down and gently ran her fingers through Kodiak's fur, savoring this moment of tranquility. As she stroked him softly, she whispered words of encouragement and affection, reassuring him that he was loved and valued. A stark contrast to the feelings of abandonment he must have experienced before arriving at her home. The world outside faded. It was just them, two souls intertwined in a beautiful dance of healing and trust. As the last rays of sunlight slipped away behind the horizon, they remained connected in an embrace that transcended language and formality, bound together by mutual understanding and shared experiences. Before long, Claire noticed that Kodiak's breathing became slower and more rhythmic as he surrendered entirely to the comfort of their surroundings. His eyelids grew heavy until finally shutting softly as sleep washed over him like a soothing wave. At that moment, she knew they had crossed a pivotal threshold together. Kodiak had surrendered not only his head but also his heart. This tender scene encapsulated everything they had worked toward. A newfound trust blossoming amidst a backdrop of compassion and care. It marked a turning point not just for Kodiak but also for Claire. This bond represented hope redefined after enduring hardship together. As night enveloped them in its calming embrace, Claire sat there quietly reflecting on how far Kodiak had come since those early days behind the red-card door. The isolation that once consumed him now replaced by warmth and companionship, forged through understanding built slowly over time, spent connecting deeply together free from expectations driving their every move forward. In those peaceful hours leading into a new day filled with endless possibilities ahead, where both hearts could beat freely knowing love flourished amid challenges faced long ago, Kodiak sleeping soundly at Claire's feet served as an everlasting reminder. Healing often begins when we choose to open our hearts fully unto each other without fear holding us back from discovering what true companionship can ultimately bring forth. As the dawn of Monday morning broke, soft rays of sunlight poured into Claire's home, illuminating the peaceful scene that lay before her. Kodiak was still asleep, his head resting contentedly on her foot, a symbol of the trust he had begun to develop over their transformative weekend together. Claire watched him breathe slowly, feeling a sense of warmth and fulfillment wash over her. In that quiet moment, she realized how profoundly their time together had impacted them both. Kodiak had come so far from the withdrawn dog who had once flinched at every sound. He now rested with a level of comfort and security that reflected the bond they had forged. It was evident to Claire that his journey toward healing had truly begun. Sipping her coffee, Claire's mind drifted to the possibilities ahead. She thought about the shelter and its bustling environment, filled with barking dogs and eager volunteers, but felt a heaviness in her heart when considering returning Kodiak to that world. The shelter had been a safe haven for him once, but had also been the place where he experienced confusion and fear after being returned twice by other families. Despite the loving intentions behind those returns, she recognized that Kodiak needed more than another chance with a stranger. He needed stability, familiarity, and a home. With her heart guiding her thoughts, Claire made her decision as she reached for her phone. She understood that adopting Kodiak would not just be about saving him from another return. It would mean committing herself to nurturing him through his fears while providing him with unconditional love. This was the kind of compassion he needed, the kind that would allow him to thrive and flourish as his true self. Taking a deep breath, Claire dialed the shelter's number, her heart racing with excitement and determination. As she waited for someone to answer, she reflected on how far they had come in such a short time and how she could no longer imagine life without Kodiak by her side. With each ring, she felt more resolute in her choice. "Shelter, how may I help you?" A cheerful voice greeted on the other end. "Hi there," Claire began warmly. "This is Claire Dawson. I took Kodiak home for the weekend." Her words trailed off momentarily as emotions welled up inside her. "I'd like to adopt him." The response was immediate. A mixture of surprise and delight echoed back through the line as the staff member congratulated her on making such a wonderful choice. "Yes," Claire continued with clarity and conviction. "I know it may sound sudden, but this weekend has changed everything for both of us. I can't bear to think of sending him back after all we've shared. He deserves a loving home where he feels safe." The staff member expressed happiness and concern for Kodiak's well-being but assured Claire that every dog deserves a second chance, especially one like Kodiak who had endured so much uncertainty in his life. They discussed paperwork and next steps as excitement bubbled within her. This was an opportunity, not just for Kodiak but also for herself, to make a lasting difference in each other's lives. By the end of the call, every nerve ending tingled with anticipation, as Claire hung up feeling empowered by both loving commitment and responsibility toward this gentle soul who needed her now more than ever. Adopting Kodiak wasn't merely about giving him another chance. It was about allowing both their lives to intertwine towards growth rooted firmly in understanding each other deeply along paths paved with patience. As she glanced down at Kodiak again, still peacefully sleeping at her feet, a smile crept across Claire's face. This moment solidified everything they had built together. It wasn't just about healing past wounds or overcoming insecurities anymore. It was about embracing joy amidst shared companionship, filled with unconditional love ahead. In that very moment, Claire knew deep down that whatever challenges lay on their horizon could be faced with unwavering strength together. A journey waiting eagerly just outside their door, filled with adventures yet uncharted, awaiting every wagging tail or gentle nudge, encouraging them forward toward an even brighter tomorrow filled solely by love, guiding them onward resolutely. The two of them forever bonded by trust born through shared moments, unfolding tenderly alongside one another throughout life, unbound from fear. The story of Kodiak and Claire serves as a poignant reminder of the intricate relationship between humans and animals, particularly the importance of understanding dog behavior. Every dog is unique, shaped by experiences that influence how they interact with the world. In Kodiak's case, his time in the shelter was fraught with challenges that left him anxious and unsure of himself. Understanding this background was crucial in helping Claire empathize with his struggles and needs. Throughout their weekend together, Claire embodied patience and compassion. Rather than forcing Kodiak to conform to traditional training methods that might have pushed him further into his shell, she chose to meet him where he was. This approach emphasized the significance of being present, not just physically but emotionally, too. By giving Kodiak space to explore and engage on his own terms, she allowed him to reclaim his sense of security, gradually helping him shed the anxiety that had taken root during his isolation. This transformative journey highlights an essential truth. One person's dedication can truly change the trajectory of a life. Claire's willingness to take a chance on Kodiak, to spend her weekends nurturing him without pressure or expectation, made all the difference. It was not merely an act of kindness. It was a commitment to fostering a connection grounded in understanding. Claire's determination to create a safe space for Kodiak provided the foundation he needed to trust again. As Claire embraced this role, she unlocked the door to healing for both herself and Kodiak. Their interactions blossomed into cherished moments filled with joy, comfort, and growth. A relationship built upon mutual respect. Each small victory was a testament to their shared journey, establishing a bond that would become a shelter against the fears of their pasts. Moreover, this narrative reflects broader themes that extend beyond the individual circumstances of Kodiak and Claire. Many dogs in shelters face similar challenges. Endless chains of returned adoptions can leave them feeling lost and devalued. By fostering awareness in those who work with animals regarding behavior and emotions, we create opportunities for deeper connections that benefit both parties. Claire's experience offers valuable lessons for anyone who loves animals. Slow down and recognize the importance of patience in building relationships rooted in trust. Animals often carry their experiences with them, responding to cues from their environment based on past trauma or joy. The love we extend must be coupled with an understanding of these influences. Otherwise, we risk perpetuating cycles of misunderstanding and fear. For families considering adopting a dog, taking time to understand the specific behavior traits and needs inherent in each animal can help ensure a smoother transition home. Rather than imposing rigid expectations based on preconceived notions about what an adoptable dog should be like, it is essential to approach every dog as a unique individual who carries their own stories. Claire's journey didn't culminate merely in adopting Kodiak, but instead led them both towards something more profound, an exploration of companionship that allowed them both to heal. The tenderness that radiated from their experiences illustrates how nurturing relationships pave the way for lasting change. Through love, empathy, and understanding, they forged a future unburdened by fear. Ultimately, this heartwarming tale reinforces that when we approach animals, and indeed each other, with open hearts ready for patience and understanding, we create spaces where love flourishes. Just as Kodiak found solace under Claire's care, countless animals worldwide yearn for such connections alongside humans who exhibit unwavering dedication toward nurturing them through whatever storms may arise. In closing, this beautiful chapter filled with newfound hope blossomed between two unlikely friends enduring trials together, transformed into triumphs spanning wider horizons ahead. Their shared journey serves as both inspiration for all those wishing to show kindness towards every soul seeking warmth therein, amid stories waiting patiently written over time shared, where unconditional love continues indefinitely, just waiting for another chance at happiness ahead.